because we have 2 early games tomorrow, and because I'm going to a movie in a couple hours' time, I have a choice between making the video and posting it now for the preview, or posting it at stupid o'clock Pacific, which means it's stupid o'clock everywhere except Europe, where they'd be like, hey, finally, a video posted at a good time for us. As much as I would love to appease Europe with that, I also want to be able to go to bed at a decent time because hockey starts at 10 o'clock in the morning for me, 1 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern. I'm not going to judge if you don't get up till 1 o'clock Eastern. That's a pretty good Friday night that you had, isn't it? Let's start things off with Florida in against the Islanders, so the review will be up after. Same as last night. Preview goes up for tomorrow, and then the review for tonight after. Florida in against the Islanders. The Florida Panthers 7-3-5 so far. The Islanders 11-3-1 over their last 5, going from most recent to furthest away from now. Versus the Capitals, they lost 5-4. Versus Detroit, they won 4-0. At Colorado, they won 4-3. At Vancouver, they lost 7-2, and at Edmonton, they won 6-2. So overall, they've won 3 of their last 5. On the Islanders side, of course, they've won 4 of their last 5. Their winning streak was broken by Pittsburgh, who beat them 4-3. That was after they won versus Ottawa 4-1. They won at Buffalo 1-0. They won at home against Tampa 5-2. And then versus Philadelphia before that, they won 5-3. So things going pretty well for the Islanders. We'll see if that can continue. And for the Cats, it's another good challenge for the Panthers, who've had a lot of them. Scoring. So what I did was I went through on the line combinations on Daily Faceoff. I picked one player from each line. And they're scoring over the last 10 games. So remember, this is the last 10 games. Barkov, 3 goals, 13 assists. Connolly, 6 goals, 2 assists. Vetrano, 4 goals, 3 assists. Dryden Hunt with 2 assists. And I picked one defenseman, Ekblad, 1 goal, 6 assists for the Panthers in their last 10 games. On the Islanders side, Barzal, 6 goals, 4 assists. Brassard, 5 goals, 1 assist. Cizikas, 2 goals and 3 assists. And Ross Johnston with a single goal. And Johnny Boychuk with 6 assists. Even though he's still listed as third pairing, he is getting his points. And, this should be a pretty fun game between two teams that, in all likelihood, won't like each other very much by the time it's all said and done. All right, moving along. Buffalo and Tampa meet again, second time in 2 days. This time, Tampa will get the last change, and they get to wear their spiffy blue jerseys, whereas Buffalo will now be in white. Same place, and we'll see if we have a different result. Buffalo's now 9-5-2. Tampa's 7-5-2. And Tampa's been flirting with getting better and becoming what we expected of them, but they've been very inconsistent. So over the last 5 games, Buffalo, they now lost against Tampa 3-2. Before that, they lost against the Islanders 1-0. Prior to that, they lost against the Capitals 6-1. They lost against Arizona 3-2. That's a 4-game losing streak for them. And prior to that, they beat Detroit 2-0. They lost the game before that as well, so they've lost 5 out of 6. Tampa, on the other hand, at Buffalo, which is technically in Stockholm, 3-2 win. Before that, they lost at New York, the Islanders, 5-2. At New Jersey, they won 7-6. They had some good fortune that Corey Schneider couldn't stop anything in that one. At the Rangers, they lost 4-1, and versus Nashville, they lost 3-2. So they really haven't found themselves either, and Buffalo is in danger of falling further out of favor. So they need to turn that around tomorrow. When you've scored 4, 5, 7 goals in your last 5 games, you got to turn things around. Scoring, again, I went by line again through Daily Faceoff. Over their last 10 games, Reinhart, 4 goals, 3 assists. Skinner, 3 goals, 2 assists. Middlestad also has 3 goals, 2 assists. Okposo with 2 assists. Yoki Haru, 1 goal, 4 assists on the blue line. On the Tampa side, Braden Point, 2 goals, 6 assists. Andre Palat, 3 goals, 4 assists. Killorn, 3 goals, 2 assists. Yanni Gourde, 3 goals and an assist for Tampa Bay. On the blue line, Kevin Shattenkirk stands out with his goal and 6 assists. He's been pretty solid. I would be very surprised if Buffalo doesn't win this tomorrow, just because Tampa's been that inconsistent and Buffalo has to get a win, and that desperation should really kick in tomorrow. I would also think familiarity breeds contempt, and after the Kucherov hit and after everything else that went on in this game following that, I would imagine both of them are going to be tired of seeing each other by the end of the first period tomorrow. Moving along. Philadelphia. Yes, the Flyers. This game starts at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. The Flyers are in against Toronto. The Flyers are now 8-5-2. Toronto's 9-5-3. So a lot of teams with very similar records in the NHL, which does make it a challenge for the Power Rankings board, but I do my best. And we're still updating it every single day, even though some days I'm like, wait, they won, and they're all together and they all won. Do I bump the team there down 4 spots? How can I justify it? So it gets a little tricky. Anyways, over the last 5, Philadelphia's been very good. At home against Montreal, they won 3-2. Prior to that, they won 4-1 against Carolina, also in Philly. And at home, they lost 4-3 against Toronto. Prior to that, they went to New Jersey. They won 4-3. Prior to that, at Pittsburgh, they lost 7-1. On the Toronto side, of course, they're coming off of a 2-1 win at home against Vegas. That's after a 3-1 win against the Kings at home. And yet we'll still hear all kinds of talk about their defense and their goaltending because that's how this works. At Philadelphia, they won 4-3 versus Washington. They lost 4-3, and at Montreal, they lost 5-2. When we look at the scoring over their last 10 games, Claude Giroux with 4 goals and 5 assists for Philadelphia. Couturier, 4 goals, 5 assists as well. Hayes with 3 goals, 3 assists. Raffl, 3 goals and 2 assists. Niskanen, a goal and 4 assists on the blue line. On the Toronto side, Marner, a goal and 8 assists. Matthews, 6 goals, 5 assists. Kapanen with 4 goals, 4 assists. And Gauthier with an assist. Riley, 3 goals, 4 assists on the blue line for Toronto. We're not into must-win territory for Toronto, though media will try to tell you that it is. But it would be nice to see them get the win tomorrow night at home against Philly, because they do need that consistent effort to continue. And for this homestand to really, basically dig in. Boston's looking kind of vulnerable right now. Tampa still hasn't been Tampa. There's an opening with Buffalo as well, seemingly coming off their hot start. There's an opening for Toronto if they can string some wins together for them to move up to anywhere in that division, any spot they so desire. But it's a matter of finding that desire and getting there. And Philadelphia won't be a pushover. That being said, I need to change boards. Next up, we have the LA Kings in against the Montreal Canadiens. All of these games start at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific, which means I got 5 games starting at once. It gets a little tricky for me to follow them when there's that many games starting at once. I will do my best. The LA Kings at 5-10-1 in against the 8-5-3 Montreal Canadiens. Don't overlook the Kings. That being said, over their last 5, they've given you plenty of reason to overlook them. They're coming off of a loss in Ottawa 3-2, which followed a loss in Toronto 3-1. Before that, they won at home against Chicago 4-3. They lost at home against Vancouver 5-3, and at Chicago prior to that, they lost 5-1. So they've won 1 out of their last 5. It's not a record that inspires fear in anybody. On the Montreal side, they've won 3 out of 5. They lost at Philadelphia 3-2. Prior to that, at home against Boston, they won 5-4 because Boston-Montreal's a bad matchup for Boston. At Dallas, they lost 4-1. At Vegas, they won 5-4. And at Arizona, they won 4-1. So overall, trending in the right direction for Montreal. We'll see if that continues tomorrow against an LA Kings team that should be defeatable. Scoring over their last 10 games, Carter 4 goals and an assist for the Kings, Lizotte with 3 assists, Iafallo 2 goals and an assist, and Michael Amadio with a goal and an assist. Amadio and Iafallo are the guys who leave me thinking there's more offensively. I'm starting to think that's just not going to be the case. Martinez with 3 assists on the blue line. On the Montreal side, Tatar 3 goals, 5 assists in their last 10 games. Drouin, 5 goals, 2 assists. Lehkonen with a goal and an assist. And Cousins has been kind of a revelation with 2 goals and 4 assists for them. On the blue line, Petrie with 6 assists. This is one of those games. I'd throw up an Akbar magnet. I really regret not putting up an Akbar magnet in the Boston-Detroit game this morning. I thought about it and I thought, nah. That would just seem really kind of petty. And Boston fans would be like, oh, of course, you got to downplay Boston. I wish I had. Anyways, moving along. Carolina. So the Canes, this could be exactly what the doctor ordered, or it could be a worse nightmare. The Canes are sliding. They've lost 3 in a row, and now they're going in against Ottawa, a team that's won 3 out of 5. Yeah, break up the Sens. Here we go. And no Uber issues with the Sens, and we haven't called them a tire fire all season. So 9-6-1 now is the record for the Canes. Like I said, that's slipping. On the Ottawa side, they're 5-9-1, and again, it's hard work. These guys, bust their tails every game, and it's fun to watch the effort from a team that you could totally understand why some of these guys would mail it in, and they're not. Over their last 5 versus New York, of course, Lundqvist beat the Carolina Hurricanes 4-2. Prior to that, they went to Philadelphia. They lost 4-1. At home against New Jersey, they lost 5-3. Versus Detroit, they won 7-3, and versus Calgary, they won 2-1. I sometimes wonder when I look at some of these, looking backs, and I see a Detroit win and then a losing streak. It's almost as if Detroit gives teams a false sense of security. Like, that game was easy. Oh yeah, no, we're great right now. Maybe that's part of, I don't know. I could look at that trend and see how teams after they beat Detroit, how they do in the next 3 or 4, because it's bizarre. Ottawa. To get here, at home against LA, they won 3-2. But prior to that, they went to New York, played the Islanders, lost 5-1. That was after they beat the Rangers 6-2. At Boston, they lost 5-2, and at home against San Jose, they won 5-2. So any given game, you have no idea what's going to happen with the Ottawa Senators. Over their last 10, Sebastian Aho, 5 goals, 5 assists, so he's rebounded from a slow start. Jordan Staal, he's in a slow part right now of his run with 1 goal. Netchus has 2 goals and 4 assists. Brock McGinn with a goal and an assist. On the blue line, Jake Gardiner quietly putting together a half-decent season with 3 assists. He's not being counted on to be the top guy, and he's not really making the argument that he deserves top minutes. Hamilton, Slavin, Pesce, they have their top guys. So Gardiner's playing a support role here. On the Ottawa side, Tierney, 2 goals, 3 assists. Pajot, who is a story for Ottawa, 6 goals for him in their last 10 games. Nemesnikov, 3 goals, 3 assists. Chalapik, 2 goals, 2 assists. And Nikita Zaitsev with 2 assists on the blue line. He's quietly having a decent season. There's a lot of guys in Ottawa that are putting together what are actually pretty decent campaigns. It's just because they're in Ottawa, we don't pay a whole lot of attention. But on the upside, too, there's a lot of talk right now about Ottawa rebranding as soon as next year. And they need to change some things up. Moving along. Chicago in against Pittsburgh. This is a fascinating one. So you've got Chicago that looks like they're about to turn it around. And Pittsburgh, who seem to be coming out of a little malaise they had for a couple of games there as well. So on the Chicago side, they're coming off a win against Vancouver, 5-2 at home. Prior to that, they were on the road for 4, and they lost 3 of them. They lost at San Jose 4-2. Prior to that, they beat Anaheim 3-2. They lost at LA 4-3, and they lost at Nashville 3-0. On the Pittsburgh side, they're coming off of that win at the New York Islanders 4-3, where they came back from 3-0 down. They came back from 3-0 down at Boston, but still lost that game 6-4. Versus Edmonton, they lost 2-1. Versus Philly, of course, they won 7-1. Prior to that, they won in Dallas 3-0. Scoring over the last 10 games, Nylander for Chicago with 5 assists. Strome has started picking it up again. 2 goals, 5 assists for him. Kampf, 3 goals and an assist, and Andrew Shaw with a goal and 2 assists. Duncan Keith, a goal and 3 assists on the blue line for Chicago. On the Pittsburgh side, Crosby, 2 goals, 5 assists. Brian Rust has been fantastic. 6 goals, 3 assists for him. McCann, 3 goals, 3 assists. Tanev, 3 goals and an assist. And John Marino, who I have been talking about since the preseason. Very nice run for him. A goal and 2 assists thus far this season. So, yeah, not a bad little game we got going on here between these two teams. We'll see if Chicago can get a run. They have to. They have to go on a bit of a run, and they're going to need to win a game like this one against Pittsburgh. If they fall by the wayside in this one, the math gets a little difficult already. And we're going to get to American Thanksgiving, and at that point, we'll take a further look at it. But yeah, the math gets pretty tricky pretty early. Moving along. Vegas. Vegas is in against Washington, so this is a rematch of the 2018 Stanley Cup Final. So I am sure that everybody's going to be all excited who's not a fan of either the Golden Knights or Caps, right? This could be game of the night right here. Golden Knights 9-5-3, the Capitals 12-2-3, and the Golden Knights are going through a bit of an identity crisis. Now, they lost their last game in Toronto 2-1, but I still like how they played on the road. Prior to that, they won at Columbus 2-1, and again, this is kind of how they have to play right now until everybody gets things going. Versus Winnipeg, they lost 4-3. Versus Montreal, they lost 5-4. Versus Anaheim, they won 5-2. So those 2 losses in the middle, concerning. The loss at the top, mildly concerning, but Subban had a really good game. We'd expect Fleury back for this one tomorrow. On the Washington side, at Florida, they won 5-4. Versus Calgary, they won 4-2. Versus Buffalo, they won 6-1. At Toronto, 4-3. And at Vancouver, 6-5. Yep, Washington's on a bit of a run right now themselves. And to be honest, I think they're the best team in hockey right now. So what I predicted at the start of the season, it eventually happened. Just took a while to get there. Scoring over their last 10 games, William Karlsson, 4 goals, 5 assists. He's picked it up. Stone, 3 goals, 5 assists. Eakin with 2 assists. Carrier with an assist. Merrill on the blue line with a single helper. There hasn't been a lot of scoring from their blue line anyways. On the Capitals side, Oshie, 4 goals, 3 assists in their last 10 games. Kuznetsov, 6 goals, 3 assists. Eller with 3 goals, 3 assists. And Leipzig, who Capitals fans seem to be happy with, and they should be. Leipzig is he's a decent player. It's just if you're looking for offense, he'll end up disappointing you. But as long as you're not looking for the offense, he's a pretty good player. He's a good bottom 6 guy. Goal and 2 assists for him in their last 10. And Karlsson, of course, continues to be the story. 6 goals and 9 assists. 15 points in their last 10 games. 15. That's just ridiculous. 15 points. Anyways, so that could very well be the game of the night tomorrow. Toronto and Philly has that potential as well, though, because there's an explosive element to both Philly and Toronto potentially, and they could both have kind of a meltdown. We could see a 6-5 game between those two. But that being said, and remember, it was only a week ago Toronto and Philly played each other, so there might be some dislike in there as well. But I now need to change boards. Okay, the Wild. This keeps getting sadder for Minnesota. They're 5-10-1 now. They're flirting with being last overall. Arizona's 9-5-2, and they're coming off of a couple of stinging defeats, to be honest. Now, for Minnesota over their last 5, it's continued a pattern of losing. At San Jose, they lost 6-5. Of course, they were down 6-2 entering the third. It shouldn't have ended up being that close. At Anaheim, they won 4-2. That was following a loss against St. Louis at home 4-3. They lost at St. Louis 2-1, and they lost at Dallas 6-3. They had a 3-0 lead in that one going into the third period. So for them, it's really kind of become a disaster. Or at least it was 3-0, I think, going into the second period. Either way, they had a 3-0 lead, and Dallas won at 6-3. How they got there, it's totally their story. On the Arizona side versus Columbus, they lost 3-2. At Calgary, they lost 4-3. At Edmonton, they won 3-2. Versus Colorado, 3-0. And versus Montreal, they lost 4-1. So they've lost 3 out of 5. Arizona's kind of been flirting with dropping as well because the Pacific is really, really competitive this year, at least thus far. Scoring over their last 10, Eric Staal, 6 goals, 7 assists for Minnesota. He's been excellent. Parise, 2 goals and an assist. Cunnin, a goal and 3 assists. And Marcus Foligno with 2 goals and an assist. Dumba has 4 helpers on the blue line. On the Arizona side, Kessel, 1 goal, 5 assists. Grabner, 3 goals, 2 assists. Schmaltz with a goal and 6 assists. And Krause with 2 goals and an assist. Goligoski, a goal and 7 assists on the blue line. Providing way more offense than I think we might have expected so far this year. But we'll see if that keeps up, and we'll see how Arizona does. This is a game Arizona should win. There's really no excuse for losing this one. They should win it. Notice I'm saying should. The problem is they've lost a couple in a row. Columbus is one they probably should have won, and they didn't. So we'll see what happens in this one. Speaking of Columbus, these guys, and I'm wearing a gray checkerboard jersey. So this is a fashion jersey, as they would call it. And it's one that I had to have, so I got this one through Full Moon Jerseys. 6-7-3 Columbus in against 9-5-2 Colorado. I generally don't wear these very often, so I've been trying to get them out of the collection just so I can wear them in videos because people probably don't know I have them. On the Columbus side, over their last 5, well, they just broke a losing streak with their last game. They won at Arizona 3-2. Prior to that, they lost at home against Vegas 2-1. They lost versus Calgary 3-0. They lost at St. Louis 4-3. And at home against Edmonton, they lost 4-1. So that's 4, 7, 8 goals in their last 5 games. That's not going to win you very much at all. On the Colorado side, they broke a losing streak as well. At home against Nashville last night, they won 9-4. 9. Prior to that, at Dallas, they lost 4-1. They lost at Arizona 3-0. At home against Dallas, they lost 2-1. And versus Florida, they lost 4-3. Scoring over their last 10 games, Dubois, 4 goals, 4 assists for Columbus. Foligno with 3 assists. Milano, 2 goals and 3 assists. And Riley Nash with a goal and an assist. Savard with 2 helpers on the blue line for Columbus. On the Colorado side, Donskoy, 6 goals and 2 assists. He's coming off a hat trick. We'll see if he can add another one. Comfer with a goal and 6 assists. Nieto, 3 goals, 2 assists. Burakovsky, 3 goals and 4 helpers. And Makar, 2 goals and 7 assists in the last 10 games. Yeah, we can keep pretending that he's not going to be Rookie of the Year if you'd like, but I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be Rookie of the Year right now. Makar is playing on a whole other level a lot of nights, and he doesn't look like a rookie out there. The one thing we don't know about tomorrow's game is for sure that McKinnon's in there. I think McKinnon's playing. I would imagine McKinnon's playing. Shouldn't be a big deal, but we'll see. If they're missing their entire first line, I would say now's a perfect time to panic for Colorado fans. That being said, Donskoy has shown he can score. Comfer's putting up some helpers. We'll see how things turn out. And, of course, Kadri, who's not on the board, he's providing some good depth scoring as well. Moving along. St. Louis. So the Blues in against Calgary. The Blues now 11-3-3. So even though I don't think we've seen the best from the Blues yet, they're winning. They're winning everything. And they're in against Calgary, who are 10-7-2. And Calgary, they've won 4 out of 5. They're quietly getting back to where they're supposed to be. Now, over their last 5 games, St. Louis is on a winning streak. They won at Edmonton 5-2. They won at Vancouver 2-1. They won at Minnesota 4-3. At home against Columbus, they won 4-3. And at home against Minnesota, they won 2-1. And you can look at that and say, well, a lot of those teams are struggling. Well, Vancouver wasn't until they met St. Louis. And for Edmonton, depends on the night. Tonight they played pretty well against New Jersey. On the Calgary side, they won at home against New Jersey 5-2. Versus Arizona, they won 4-3. At Washington, they lost 4-2. At Columbus, they won 3-0. And at Nashville, they won 6-5. And that was, of course, a thriller. So, over their last 10, Jaden Schwartz, 3 goals, 6 assists for St. Louis. David Perron, 4 goals, 7 assists. Bozak, 2 goals, 3 assists. Barbashev with a goal and 2 assists. Pietrangelo, 3 goals and 7 helpers for the St. Louis Blues. On the Calgary side, Monahan, 2 goals, 8 assists. Tkachuk, 7 goals, 4 assists. Derek Ryan with 2 goals, 3 assists. Lucic has 2 helpers. And Hanifin with a goal and 4 assists for the Calgary Flames. So, kind of a big game for both teams. St. Louis really rounding into form on a nice winning streak. And for Calgary, a chance to, if they win this one tomorrow night, make that 3 in a row. And then we'll start talking about Calgary getting back to where they want to be, which is at the very least top 3 in the Pacific, if not looking at a Pacific Division crown again. But that remains to be seen because St. Louis is not going to be an easy out tomorrow. They just aren't. Nashville. So last game of the night. This one starts at 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 Eastern. Of course, the Calgary game starts at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. I don't like games that start at 8 o'clock locally, so I can just imagine for fans in Calgary it's got to be kind of frustrating. But either way, this one in San Jose at 7:30 my time, 10:30 Eastern. The 6-10-1 San Jose Sharks trying to show they're not dead yet against the 9-5-2 Nashville Predators. We're going to try to show that what happened against Colorado, that's just a one-off. Don't expect our defense and goaltending to be that porous again anytime soon. Over their last 5, of course, they're coming off that 9-4 loss at Colorado. That's coming off of a win at Detroit 6-1. See what I'm talking about? Guys come off wins against Detroit. Things are pretty good. We're awesome. And then the next game, it all falls apart. Versus the Rangers, they lost 2-1. Versus Calgary, they lost 6-5. And at home against Chicago, they won 3-0. So overall, that's 2 wins and 3 losses over their last 5 for the Nashville Predators. On the San Jose side, like I said, they seem to be trying to come back from the dead. They won against Minnesota 6-5, despite their best efforts. They won versus Chicago 4-2. That one wasn't supposed to be close either, and they made it close at the end. Versus Vancouver, they lost 5-2. Versus Winnipeg, they lost 3-2. That was a game where they outshot Winnipeg badly and managed to lose it. And at Boston, they lost 5-1. So they're playing well. They need some more saves late in games, is what I'm saying. They do. On the scoring side, over their last 10, Arvidsson, 2 goals, 4 assists for Nashville. Duchesne, 3 goals, 2 assists. Bonino, 6 goals and 3 assists. Sissons, 3 goals and 4 assists. On the blue line, Yossi, 3 goals, 8 assists. Dude's been a machine out there. On the San Jose side, LeBanc, 3 goals, 3 assists. Hurdle, 4 goals, 8 assists. Marleau now has a goal and 4 assists in his last 10 games. Gambrell, a goal and an assist. Erik Karlsson, 1 goal, 6 assists, 7 points. And because of the expectations, 7 points in 10 games, which would average out to about 50 points in a season, that would be seen as a disappointment. So, based on his salary and the expectation. We'll see how this works out. If you have Jones against Rinne, you would obviously give the edge to Rinne, especially coming off of a game like last night in Colorado. I would expect a shutout over San Jose coming off of a game like that. Rinne is known for big bounce-back games, and I would expect that from him tomorrow. But that being said, those are your 11 games for Saturday in the National Hockey League, Saturday, November 9th. So we're 2 days away from, Remembrance Day is on Monday. So, Anyways, there you go. You guys are all set for tomorrow's games. Now I will resume watching whatever's going on between the Oilers and the Devils. Ottawa's on one of the other boards. And I didn't jinx anything tonight. It barely started the third period, so I timed this absolutely perfectly. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for all your support. And for people who are fans of The Entertainment Guy, after I've watched that movie tonight, I will post a review of the movie featuring myself and my wife tonight on the Entertainment Guy channel. So there you go. Thank you guys so much. I'll talk to you again soon.